One of the issues raised by the Stowers case is the amount of force police officers used during a search and seizure at a residential place like the Stowers home behind me. Some people argue that the Lorain County Sheriff's Office might have gone too far.
Quite a few men just walked through the house. They never really did identify themselves. When I got to the top of the stairs, I looked down and saw a gentleman at the bottom of the stairs, and with his arm and a gun across his arm, facing me up the stairs. First I thought it was a serial killer, and a few seconds went through my mind trying to figure out what to do with the children, how to get them away from the children, and how to somehow let them know that they need to get out of the house. The best thing for me to do was to go down and try to get him away from the upstairs.
Captain Richard Resendez of the Lorain County Sheriff's Office says the response has caught him off guard.
This was so uneventful, I was taken back by the negativity from people that weren't even, one, weren't there, and two, probably were not even residents of Lorain County or the state of Ohio.
When I heard what happened with the raid, obviously to me it was a sign of a government that's been given too much power. To come into a private citizen's home to use such extreme methods.
It's not like people were being sickened in the community and they're trying to trace it back where it came from.
The Stowers family has been hearing those types of reactions from friends and strangers alike from across the country.
It just made me so angry. I was like, children, there's children in here. Why would you do that? It's so outrageous.
If we know we're dealing with children, we take that in consideration. In these engagements, we have an obligation to secure the residents in a safe manner, not only for the officers, but for the people there.
Safety was the Stowers' biggest concern as well, and they can't help but to think the worst could have happened.
If he'd have fell and his gun had gone off, what would have happened to these guys on the outside? Would they have then opened fire on the house, and then would these guys have opened fire back?
That situation may seem very unlikely, but it was a similar situation last year that left Tarika Wilson dead in Lima, Ohio. It was there that a SWAT team raided Wilson's home looking for her boyfriend, who was a target of a drug investigation. Wilson was unarmed when she was shot and killed by police. While that might be the worst case scenario, others are more concerned with the number of officers and the amount of time they spent in a family's home.
These 10 deputies or 8 deputies that sat here all day, what else could they have been doing? Is my biggest thing, that they weren't on the streets. So who was on the streets that day when they came into a very passive home and discovered it was passive, discovered whatever they had been told did not occur? So I was just furious.
This was the average number. Because again, you need people on the inside, you need people on the outside.
The Lorain County Sheriff's Department says that if they could go back, they would not do it any differently. They typically serve between 10 and 12 search warrants in a residential area like the Stowers home every year. And normally, they say, they bring in more officers and sometimes have to use more force.
This was not an overabundance of people. This would probably average. And the way the officers were outfitted, the way they were prepared, was probably less than the average search warrant. We're talking about plainclothes detectives.
Still, some argue it was just too much.
There could have been other steps taken to address their concerns other than sending armed sheriff's deputies in here to terrorize a family. So I see it as a violation of civil liberties.
Reporting for the Buckeye Institute, I'm Lynn Walsh.